Well, hello everybody. Welcome to Super Soldier Talk. I'm James Rink, and today I will be the host, like I usually am, always am. So we also have Ashton, aka Nüsken here. So thanks again for coming on. Um, hopefully, I know we're having a little technical issues there with the audio and the video, so you may have to turn off the footage soon, but that's okay. Hopefully it's not too cold over there. And where are you, if you don't mind sharing?
Oh, just a scenic outlook here in Calgary right now. It's about 40, 45 Fahrenheit, so like probably 5 degrees Celsius.
Oh, okay. That seems pretty warm for that part of the world. Okay, so today Newskin will be covering a selection of a variety of SSB topics, including his World War II era ancestry in connection to the Kruger Mercenary Corporation. And he also knows the history behind Sigmund and can elaborate on the inter-German breakaway rivalry between the Kriegsmarine Luftwaffe Wehrmacht versus the Valhalla versus the Schutzstaffel and the Waffen-SS, which continues to this day, and has implications for a variety of Nacht Waffen regimes' current operational status and perceived lack of action. He also has information about Nacht Waffen time travel missions to control the timeline and cut out the Draco middleman. So he has remote viewed secret SRA, which stands for Satanic Ritual Abuse, sites in Canada, and has since meeting and recognizing other Nacht Waffen Regier Kruger assets in the past couple of years. He's also had the Cabal significantly dial up the harassment and derailing in his personal life. As Nüsken believes, he's somehow pissed off the Cabal even more now than ever, pissed off the Germans or the DracoZetas themselves. So Nüsken has served in Nacht Waffen Regier Dark Fleet, which I don't think actually Nacht Waffen doesn't exactly translate to Dark Fleet. What was Waffen is not doesn't mean fleet. Did
Oh
Nüsken
no,
you
it
there?
translates to night weapons in German.
That's right.
That was the original term that CG was using for Dark Fleet.
Yeah. We're in his main first 20 and back, I guess, tour was in variety of he served as security, fleet maintenance and repair, and he was also put into officer training. According to Nacht Waffen Regier records in the here and now, Nüsken was ranked as a captain of the combined NWR Kruger Special Ops Fire Team, which has Nacht Waffen officers commanding groups of 1 to 3 Kruger fire missions. Okay. Kruger wanted this. Let's see. Let's just move. Okay. Records were heavily scrubbed from general fleet access, and Nüsken was listed as coded for reentry under reserve forces status, which is also used for my lab, the military abductions, 20 and back assets that completed their service. He also participated in alternate timelines, which involved the Blue Beam and Nacht Waffen Regier alien salvation scenario. So you have to explain what is an alien salvation scenario?
Project Bluebeam was originally set up as a false flag invasion, but after Nacht Waffen has issues with the Cabal, they modified it in such a way that if they ever used it, they would be using their own assets, along with Kruger, ICC, IDARF, and others to come down here and basically take things over.
Thank you for that. Okay. In his second Blue Beam tour, he's reached the equivalent rank of lieutenant colonel in the 302nd Jugendbund unit, which is German for youth pitcher. Nüsken believes this is group to be an NWR recruitment arm operating using combined Chronovisor and Valhalla program intel, along with counter surveillance of Cabal ops and assets, which Nacht Waffen and Kruger, by extension, uses to fast-track MyLab and past life red flags into officer status and controlling the chessboard. What did I just say there, Nüsken? What does that mean?
When they're looking for us for chronovisors in past life, from what we did from past lives, they look for red flags. For example, anyone who might have been like a leader of a country or military or anything to do with technology, medical, or any reference point to the Orion Wars was usually a red flag in their system for recruitment. For me, I had a past life as a Lyran. I had one past life as a Chinese emperor, and along with other stuff in the here and now. just from a family history, that would have red flagged me for sure.
And what does Valhalla program entail? What is that? Valhalla program entail?
Valhalla program is where Nacht Waffen sends back ships of our fleets back in time in order to rescue lost populations and transplant on other worlds, or to do missions and change the timeline. With how much intel they've gathered over the past hundred, if not thousands of years, combined with other sources, they could easily paint a picture and make lists of people that they could potentially intercept before the Cabal does in terms of SSP recruitment and asset training.
Oh, well. And so Nacht Waffen has been around for 10,000 years. So basically, it was a group of cyborgs that got taken over by the AI. And when I guess I don't know, say Nazi, I guess, I haven't been kicked off the internet, YouTube yet for that. But when they made into alliance with Dark Fleet, their interests were mutually aligned. So, and then of course with time travel, all kind of murkies the water. What really came first? Okay, so let's go on here. In this timeline, the Galactic Federation of Light breached the solar system around 2031, and most of his command team were killed when his shuttle crash landed on Mars in a horde of arachnids and mantises. What is this about? What happened in 2031? Which is that hasn't
In
happened
that
yet.
timeline, the GFL is already outside the system. We were all down here on Earth, just trying to quell the uprising and stuff that were happening. Right around that same time was supposedly a solar flash, along with Russia and China using their nukes to first EMP and then deal with everything else. And that's when me and that team got on a shuttle that wasn't impacted by the EMP and took off towards Mars. We went past, it looked like a GFL battleground with Nacht Waffen using their ships as kamikaze runs in order to try and stop it, but nothing happened. And then that's when the ship crashed on Mars.
So are you saying that in the future there's a war between the Nacht Waffen and the Galactic Federation of Light?
And Russia and China are going to be on the GFL side, potentially, for that.
Oh wow! Do you know what side in North America we might see? What do you think?
Nacht Waffens.
Right. All right. Well, there you have it. So it's the Fourth Reich, I guess. Okay, so he was remediated, sorry, by Galactic Federation of Light, Secret Space Program forces in
Alliance.
what's that?
Alliance.
Alliance. Oh, okay, that's what the Alliance in the aftermath and sent back to approximately 2009, where the effects of both 20 and back tours did a severe toll on his personal life. What does that mean? What did it do?
Well, I guess I already had issues from IBIS, just from all that stuff that happened there, but after over 20 and back tours from the dates I've been able to recognize where I was taken and then returned, everything just steadily like got derailed. Like all of a sudden, like in elementary school, for example, I was mentioning racial stuff and drawing swastikas on binders, like all sorts of stuff back then. That was for my first tour. And then by the second one, after 2009, it's just completely derailed after that point.
Okay, thank you for sharing that. He recalls being at the Lunar Operations Command for Kruger debriefs and sometimes medical treatment. He was also stationed on Mars, Ceres Iaptis near Saturn, and New Corellia as a security chief vessel inspections out of asteroid base. That's an asteroid? New Corellia?
Uh, no, asteroid base outside New Corellia.
Well, where is that located?
I can't recall the exact system or specifics, but it is one of the main German breakaway systems.
Oh, okay. Okay. All right. Let's see. His asteroid base was usually the standby position of the Opherion, Nacht Waffen's capital flagship ship. Okay, Opherion. So that's where I was stationed, as second class lieutenant navigation asset. Okay, so it wouldn't interfere with New Corellia's orbital traffic. He has recall of combined Nacht Waffen Regier Kruger missions with Harris and the Kruger Corps, extracting Nacht Waffen Regier personnel off of other planets, eliminating rogue Sikaar, which are basically the Draco, Bloodhound units, and doing recon of former Lyran planets annihilated during the Orion Wars. During his service, he has encountered Royal White Dracos, Greys, and Cabal sympathizers from the DracoZeta Alliance. His blue beam recall had him patrolling through urban areas, loaded to the teeth, assisting Nacht Waffen Regier for Cabal roundup. So I guess this happens in the future, right?
This would be the second timeline. It didn't happen in the first tour, but the second tour was a blue beam where I did that.
So this was what year was this going? Was this from our future, from our perspective?
This would have been approximately early 2020s.
So this timeline we're not on that timeline, probably. I guess.
No, it's the alternate timeline. They dug me up and threw me in.
His blue beam recall animatronic. Okay, urban areas. Loaded to the teeth, assisting Nacht Waffen Regier for Cabal roundup. He has some memories of visiting Hollow Earth and engagements with biblical 50-foot giants as well, which is potentially a screen memory for the Royal Draco. Where did you go in Inner Earth?
I remember just random places here and there. I can't remember names, but lush jungles and monks. Some people in Nacht Waffen uniforms, but mostly seem to be a civilian.
Oh, wow. Okay. Nüsken is also looking to establish a business legally recreating SSP technology, gear, and decoration to other objects. He does not have crowdfunding or anything, but it's interesting. If anybody wants to work with Nüsken, we can, I guess, your email address is listed there, the Nüsken93 at Proton Mail. So, yeah. Okay, wow. So, what kind of technology do you want to work on? What's coming to mind? First thing that's coming to mind.
Well, there has been like odd recall here and there, frequencies, healing tech, recall tech, like stuff along those lines. Once I have the funding and resources and tools for it, but right now I'm also just looking at recreating SSP gear. Of course, that's also why I threw legally in there, just to be safe, of course. But just like all the other stuff we had in service, like recreations of the hammers and other things like that.
All right. So some people may not know what exactly is the hammer.
The hammer is a recall device that Nacht Waffen created for themselves in order to basically get rid of memories, retrieve memories, or calm people down when we're about to go on rampages, stuff like that. I remember there was a guest on your show a while back. He called it the Deems device. The Deems device is basically a version of what that hammer is. Just the hammer had a larger crystal, it had a bigger power base, but virtually the same gallium and stuff like that was used inside of it. The picture there would have been potentially a cheaper model that they would have had in the service, or me trying to figure out exactly how to physically make it. So power source, crystal on the right hand side, transmitter, or something on the left.
On the left, Unschickbahnstraßen, fancy train
With
tracks.
some of my notes, sometimes every recall comes down in the middle of it, so I've been writing down as I go along.
Okay, so here's the Deems device. So it's basically like a Baghdad battery, and there's a magnet right here. So the center of this there's a vortex that opens up, so it creates like a scalar field. And yeah, it's a very low-tech version of a very high-tech type of technology. So let me put this in. It's very, very magnetic. Okay. Okay. All right, so let's get this. Thank you. So let's. All right, so we got your. Want to recreate the memory? Maybe we can. So, how could you utilize this type of technology? The shock hammer.
Like mostly for recall purposes and healing. Of course, Nacht Waffen found other uses for it, but this would be specifically for healing and recall purposes.
Okay. It is the technology capable of helping you recover memories from another past lifetime? You think?
Not so much past lifetime, but more just suppressed from here and now.
Okay. Wow. Okay. Well, maybe when the planet flips, we I don't know if we'll ever get recognition or money or anything, but hopefully, I think there will be one day, and we can see if we get that technology out. All right. So let's pull it up. Oh, I thought I had this right here. Well, how about so this was the notes from your other session. I was trying to find the. Let me just go ahead and keep talking while I'm going to try to locate this picture. What do you want to talk about next?
Well, I guess I had a lot of random recall lately. Not really sure how to put it all together. I mean, the last one I had a few days ago was me on a shuttle with what looked like a fire team on R&R or something, going towards Ceres, I believe. I'm not sure if that was like a memory or maybe an alter that I haven't been able to track down yet, but it seems that whatever glimpses I have of the alternate timelines right now, Nacht Waffen has been apparently looking for some of my alters. Either that or my alters are sending me bits and pieces. I haven't been able to track down exactly which alters from where, but the information has been coming through quite a bit.
Okay, well here's a drawing you've done. Let's see. I'm gonna try to zoom in. I guess
Oh, one
different
of my
timelines.
earlier ones.
Yeah. Oh, so well, if you got a new one, I don't know if you can find it quickly, but so this is you started 93, and now you're age 6 in 2000. Oh, 99. Okay, let's keep going here. I see a yellow bar, so that's SSP training. You're age 16, I guess, when they first take you, or maybe not.
The first time I recall might have been around when I was 8 or 9 years old, so this would have been 2002, maybe early 2003 for my first tour.
Okay. All right. So the yellow. All right. So then we go to orange, which is important. Or Kruger. Oh, I'm sorry. That's Kruger. Okay. So now you're serving in Kruger, and that goes all the way to 2030. All right. So I guess in 2030, does that mean that they're gonna? I mean, the planet's probably gonna flip by then. I guess, right? He probably.
That's also potentially where in the second tour that they want to intervene and try and get reins on it as soon as possible before it flips toward GFL. That's also some of the fears of the Andromeda Council and others as well, that all of a sudden the three core planets, Earth, Moon, and Mars, would be installing this galactic tyranny or something 300 years in the future.
So the Galactic Federation of Light, I guess you could say, liberates in quotation marks, but something else even worse materializes here is what shows on the timelines.
Oh yeah, in the second tour, the GFL did win, and that's how I got sent back. But in some of the alternates and some of the warnings from other people out there, when Nacht Waffen took over and won, they virtually became Renaissance of the Black Goo, basically. That's supposedly where all the warnings and stuff came from that section of the future.
So I guess you could call it the quantum supercomputer, the 17 thing. It's been working with this aspect from these other alternate timelines, and so that one probably wasn't so good, I guess. Became AI entrained. So, yeah, correct. Yeah. Okay. All right, so what we got here? Let's see. We have Phil and Rom, GC. What is this? And VN.
Oh, like, well, I guess for the other thing too, unfortunately, just due to my personal circumstances, I can't really afford Microsoft Word. So instead of being able to do this on Excel, I've been forced to do it on paper. But for those, yeah, that was from a couple years ago when I was first actually starting to identify assets and figure out who, what, when, where, why. Like for some of these, like for example, Phil and Rom, that was for Harris's brother because he had Filipino and Romanian heritage. Just trying to figure out where the genetics kicked in order to figure out exactly how it all went down.
Okay.
Again, that was a very early one.
What
I've
is
been
this
able
thing?
to refine these quite a bit since.
What is this AN at the bottom here? 1993. Is that you? Project
Yeah,
Ibis?
yeah, AN, yeah.
Okay. All right. So 97. Okay, here we go. And then Project. Tell us a little bit about what is Project Ibis in your words, anyway.
It's hell. It's definitely one one hell of a nasty project that they threw us in. I'm still trying to recollect, but I can barely recall it, and whatever I call is usually the worst.
Wow. Okay. Isn't there like a dumb in Alberta where that Project Ibis takes place? Does anybody in the chat remember the name? I think James Casbolt name dropped that. Probably Max Spears.
I do recall the general location, but I don't know the specific.
Okay.
There's one time last winter, me and Harris, we were getting water in Canmore, and we noticed a triangle wedge craft above what we supposedly thought was Ibis, and we knew because it was walking out some of the clouds. So I'm assuming if it still exists, we all got told it was destroyed, but Nacht Waffen might be looking for people for retrieval or SSPA depending on what's happening up there.
Okay. I think it's in Banff. I think that's how you say it. But okay. So essentially they would take the children and put them in cages, and they would have them psychically bond with various animals. So for me, it was a spider. Wasn't much to bond to anyway, but yeah, so all right, so you get out of there. And now you're 9. Okay, so we got different trajectories. You're going, okay, you go to 2023. Then there's another one. So your body is overlapping in multiple. So you're here multiple times this in the same time, but at different places, essentially.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you have any idea how many times you're bilocating right now at the same time, like right now? What do you think?
I I know there's probably at least one or two still out there. And the alternates, I know they still exist, but depending on what happened to those alternates, some of mine have been eliminated. Not through SSP means, but stuff like getting hit by a car or drowning, stuff like that. So some of them have been steadily knocked down one by one, but there is quite a few SSP ones out there.
All right. So let's just say we'll start off at the age of 4 or 5. Okay. Or maybe the age of 9. So at that point, they would, I'm assuming they would probably take you to the moon and put you in stasis and use your DNA as a clone to do the service. Do you think that's probably what happened with you?
It would explain a lot of my medical issues too. Same thing as Arkeem said. They keep our bodies in a tall white facility, make clones, and then send the original bodies back. But the original bodies are still in space for that entire time. So it could be something like that too.
Oh, wow. Okay, let's go on here. Is that okay? We'll move on.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
All right. So so here's another one. This one is another drawing, and I was really hoping you would go into this because you haven't doing. Oh, okay, hold on. Let's pull this one up here. Okay, so I'm gonna zoom in and tell us what are we looking at here?
Oh yeah, that was me trying to figure out the food replicators that they had up there.
Okay, how do you pronounce this?
That was the what I could get back trying to translate it through Google. I can definitely attempt it though. Uh, Bertflogen, Cyanite, Nurung, Einheit, this food replication.
Oh wow, okay. All right, so we're guessing this is made by uh maybe some kind of planetary corporation, I guess, or maybe even one that we might even recognize.
I know John mentioned Mondelez, but for mine, it keeps on coming up as Maggie for some reason. And Maggie is supposedly a food and supermarket chain in Germany that makes a lot of food. So there
Hmm.
could be like various manufacturers. Again, with the Nacht Waffen ICC ref, for example, Mondelez could be the ICC production team for replicators, but Maggie could be for Nacht Waffen or breakaways.
Okay. And do you think these companies are using food replicators to produce their, say, bananas, their produce, so that those bananas may not actually been grown? They might have come out of replicator. What do you think of that?
Very likely. With all the space on board, we do have arboretums and stuff like that on some of these ships, but mostly all the food comes through replicators. Unless it's off-world and somewhere far away. In that case, usually locally grown. Like
Okay.
they still value cash crops in the breakaway for trading, especially after the lessons the Germans learned with gold and silver after our first travel. So we still have cash crops and stuff like that, but most of the stable crops is usually for replicator now.
Okay. Wow. Wow. Okay. So, and do you recall eating replicated food?
Quite often, yeah.
And is there like a difference in quality of the lower, like the one for all the maybe the officers or compared to the enlisted? What do you,
Uh, well, definitely felt a bit more rubbery, but you could still eat it. Just didn't exactly taste the same way. It didn't taste fresh. It's kind of like if you buy a steak like right before they expires at the store for like 50% off, almost like the same exact taste as that.
oh wow. So the food replicators and the rich and the elite Germans probably are pretty darn good, I guess. Or hopefully, maybe still not authentic. The technology. What do you think?
Uh, I know the higher ups in there, for example, the Krugers, they still prefer organic stuff and refuse like replicated water and stuff. It has to be the original stuff or stuff they usually bring in with them during meetings or on travels. Like they, for example, they'll go for all natural, but there's most of it in Nachtwaffen and others that just use replicators just for convenience.
Okay. Could you describe how does technology actually works? If you have that knowledge, what do you think?
It uses frequencies in order to combine particles and atoms together in order to make items like food or clothing and magnetic fields and stuff especially.
Oh wow. Okay. So we got an on-off switch. We've got a processing yellow, ready, green. Typically found in IDARF. Can you tell us what is IDARF?
Interplanetary Defense and Reaction Forces, Jason Rice's organization.
Yeah. So that was so the Germans moved out of the moon, their LLC facility that they originally got from the Draco, the territory. So that was I think that was like in early '90s. The Cabal made a treaty with. Is this correct? This not what Jason Rice said? Nüsken, am I?
Around September 1991 was George H.W. Bush's New World Order speech. So that would have been approximately summer of 1991 where this treaty happened.
Okay, I'm sorry. And so that means so IDARF was responsible for going to other planets and implementing a fiat monetary system, basically an elite families that are ruling the planet. So anyway, great organization, right? I'm being sarcastic. So
The other thing with IDARF as well, problem, reaction, solution. If there was IDARF creating a Cabal, then eventually, once the Cabal derails, Nacht Waffen could basically pull an alternate blue beam scenario, come down, and then bring him into the fold, which seems to be an ongoing reused tactic that I've seen and heard from the SSP community the past couple years lately in regards to
so typically the Nacht Waffen wouldn't really want to work with the Cabal. So I mean, there's an uneasy truce that took place after World War II when the Cabal tried to go down there under Operation High Jump, and so they got annihilated by the Germans. And ever since then, there's been this war going on, anyway, so let's move on. Okay, IDARF, yeah, let's go on here. We've got combat operations on series, mop up, Rakenkrieg. What is that? What's Rakenkrieg?
Rattenkrieg, War of the Rats.
The War of the Rats?
Yeah.
What is that?
War of the Rats came through as a term that was developed during Stalingrad when they were fighting the Soviets house to house, street by street. For those type of operations, especially from what Jason Rice described as Calidus free, having to fight in close quarters combat from positions much like the First World War, Korean War, and trenches and bunkers, they used to have these food replicator units that would eliminate a lot of the logistics problems that the Nazis, for example, had during the Second World War, where they couldn't transport goods fast enough. So instead, by having these food replicators there, they can basically sit in a position for days, weeks, months on end, and not have to worry about logistics or trying to supply our soldiers with provisions.
And we have Jason Wright's IDARF Nacht Waffen Regier shuttlecraft, the Rattenkrieg. So, can operate on lower electricity amounts, but limited menu selection. So it's get the power needed, a 240 VIM suspension, a MOG, a MIDI synthesizer. So was that for sound frequency?
240 volts in order to operate it. I guess via field for it, from what I can recall. And then Moog and MIDI, they used it early on just because of ease of creating the sounds for it, but that's how they did the frequencies. They do it through such a way where you had a Moog or MIDI hooked up, and that's what got the frequencies together in a pattern to form protein strains and stuff like that for it.
Can you explain what a Moog MIDI synthesizer is, or what does it do?
Basically, if everyone remembers like those old 1980s like Yamaha keyboards, that would be virtually the MIDIs, and then the Moog would be the predecessor to that.
Oh wow, okay. Well, is there anything else you want to share about this?
Well, like I said, like Namondola's ones were common on ICC facilities, but Maggie was more common for the Nacht Waffen facilities, from what I could see, other than the ships, which of course were built for the ICC. Maggie, I guess, what might have been one of the paperclip companies, along with Messerschmitt, sorry, and the others that might have went along to break away and form their own divisions, or completely supersede their Earth counterparts.
Right. So maybe we have Braun. Braun might. this. Okay. Let's see. Let's get out of this, or get your Tang out of this popular drink on Mars from the food replicator. All right. So let's see here. Let's go back to. Maybe we should go back to the beginning here. You want to discuss a selection SSP super soldier topics, including his World War II era ancestry. Maybe we'll start with that. What would you like to share about your World War II ancestry in connection to Kruger Mercenary Corp?
Well, I'd also like to talk about Carl Emmerman at some point during this interview as well. Uh, we've been having some recall about him and Skorzeny for the past while, but in terms of family, from what I've been able to look up, I found my great Opa's name listed on Luftwaffe records, but it's under a completely different name. And growing up, when I was living with my uh, grandpa who raised me instead of my dad, now my grandpa was from my mom's side of the family. He was Native American French, what they call in Canada Métis, and he'd be walking out of the porch, watching me play outside, and all of a sudden he'd be like, "You're a Nüsken." And of course, I had no idea what it was when I was a kid, right? But eventually, looking it up years later with the internet, all of a sudden, finding barely any records on Nüsken, but I also couldn't find any on my original last name. I looked up through Akashic and other means, and eventually, my Great Opa's name came up, but technically, most of the information I found was correct, but it got scrubbed and hidden for SS weapons projects and that paperclip and a couple other things.
Okay. All right. So what about your connection to Kruger? I think you said you were a captain. I mean, obviously you didn't just show up as a captain. What'd you say when you were 9 years old? You began. So
Back in the 1940s, my great Opa was stationed for I can't remember the exact name, JG-51. It was a fighter unit of the Luftwaffe based out of the Tepsk air base in what is now Belarus, or what used to be occupied territory during the Second World War. In early July 1943 was the Battle of Kursk, and according to his Luftwaffe records I could access, there was 6 or 7 planes shot down, and approximately on the 7th or 8th of July 1943 he was sent out on a combat mission somewhere around Orel in Archangels or something like that. And according to cross references from historians with Nazi and Soviet records, apparently he rammed a Soviet fighter plane out of the sky, and they couldn't find his body as of 1960. According to Akashic and everything else I have been using, apparently not only did he survive, which is a fucking miracle, he had managed to get back to lines, and that's when Krüger, Walter Krüger, one of the SS commanders on that section of the front, along with a couple of the other Luftwaffe higher ups, all of a sudden handpicked him for Hanabu testing. That's how Krüger got involved with the Nüsken so far back, because Walter, the senior Krüger, was a commander out on the front, and some of the names he recognized, some of the combat losses, if they were Valhalla or if they survived the war, typically Walter Krüger, especially after he passed away in the 1970s and went up to Kruger Corps, would have utilized these people for contacts and exchanges within Nacht Waffen itself and German breakaway, which is also potentially how Kruger Corps became so powerful in the aftermath.
oh wow. So maybe I think a lot of our audience members know what Kruger is, but could you define Kruger in your own words for people who maybe just stumbled on this and don't know?
Kruger Mercenary Corps is basically a mercenary version of Nacht Waffen led by Walter Krüger, who himself, in this timeline, basically got sidelined by Heinrich Himmler and the other SS and Hitler, and kept in the Courland pocket, which was blocked off by the Soviets when he could have been evacuated towards Germany to join the rest of the fight. He survived the war and retreated to an Austrian manor, I believe, for the last 20 years of his life, where he died in the early 1970s, around approximately the same time that Alexandria or Gabriel Kruger, otherwise known as Amy and Gregory Puller, were conceived. In an alternate timeline, Walter Krüger might have been one of the spearheads that would have been potentially where the Nazis might have won in that timeline. Because, for example, if he used monetary tactics like bribing people or having mercenaries, that would have solved some of the issues that the Waffen-SS and stuff had in this timeline instead, which might also explain why Kruger Corps became so powerful in a timeline like that, where in this timeline it might have been less influence, like stuff like that.
Oh wow, okay. Thank you for sharing that. So what do we know about Kruger? Apparently it was Gabriel Kruger wasn't he like born like in the 1820s or something?
Uh,
Yeah.
1880s, 1890s.
Well, he used time travel technology to go forward in time. And then he started work, I guess, during military contractor in World War One, and then of course World War Two. So, all right, Gabriel Kruger. So, I think Jack Parsons' lab is connected to that. That's why children were getting their arms cut off and reattached, and we had the Freddy Krueger movies to give a little soft disclosure. But maybe Kruger is more humane now. I don't know. You think they treat you okay?
Well, I didn't serve in Kruger. Like, I was a Nacht Waffen CO assigned with Kruger fire teams, but I didn't technically serve in Kruger as far as I know. But Harris and some of the others I've been able to recognize have.
Yeah, myself. All right. Well, let's hear. So yeah, it's actually funny. So we had Kimberly Lusana came on here, and she was had memory or communicating to a certain aspect at Kruger, the super soldier myself. But we were asking him certain questions like, how much do they pay you, or do you have a girlfriend or a wife or anything? And the answers are basically after every mission, their memories are wiped and they're just put back in stasis. So it seems like the slavery thing exists in all ranks and file out there. And
Well, I guess it depends, but from what we know from that one recall we had with me and Harris, they injected chemicals for something in his neck that basically blank slate a recall, but they didn't throw him in a stasis or anything afterwards, as far as I knew. They did blank slate him from the mission details and the combat experience itself, but uh, with certain ones, it'd be just like starting a knock off and where you're with military, we're allowed to go anywhere, stuff like that. But generally, they were locked down in like corps and stuff. But just from what I be able to recall and seen, it was just, I guess, a tighter control, but at least wasn't like slavery conditions.
Well, thank you for sharing that. Okay, so what I'm trying to, I think what I'll do, maybe I'll just share this because you had some pictures you wanted to share, and I was having trouble figuring out. I'm downloading it, but it's just showing up in some strange place in my hard drive. So we're gonna do this. I'll click on that. I'm hoping this is gonna work. Please work. Okay, let's see here. Where are you? Oh my gosh, where are you? Okay, it's got to be there. Give me a moment, guys. Okay, there we go. All right, so tell us. We started with this. What is this that we're looking at?
First off, Harris did give me permission to share this specific image and the other two, but basically he'd gone to almost a construction accident where 2,000, 3,000 pound retainer wall almost crashed down on him, and for some reason his spinal cord almost got ripped out because of it with disc and stuff. He went for an X-ray, and luckily enough, the practitioner for it gave him a digital copy with the software included so he could zoom in. We looked on it and we found a 1 by 1 millimeter looked like anomaly on it, and when we zoomed out and looked in with different contrasts, it was in the shape of a swastika.
What is this thing zoomed in? Shape of swastika? What is this, like his brain?
No, this is right around the like near his back.
Wow.
Uh,
So good.
like I'm not sure exactly what implant, but I think you mentioned from before it wasn't chameleon class, but I think it was a fiber optic implant. I'm just not sure exactly what it's for though, but apparently he might have had one.
Right. Wow. Okay. So for those of you who are new to this, Harris has been on here before, but between the last interview and the present, he had a work related injury. Right? Is it work related?
Yeah.
Okay. And is he still unable to work right now? I mean, is he still?
Oh
What's
no,
his
he
state?
is working, but just not in the same line of work.
Hmm. Is he able to? I mean, is he? I guess he's not paralyzed. But
No.
okay. Is he in a lot of pain still?
Oh no, like what happened was if we thought it might have been like broken columns, but apparently it might have repaired itself over time. So we're not sure what this implant exactly is, but it might potentially have something to do for regeneration or something.
Oh, maybe that one's made by Braun as well.
The only
Okay.
other thing I could think of is maybe frequencies and whatever this tech is might have combined to do heal.
All right.
It's
So we
also
got
something I
some.
want to look into at some point with this business stuff I was mentioning.
Okay. Thank you, Nüsken. So we got some AI artwork here. So what it appears, my interpretation of the slide anyway, is that AI is able to tune into the multiverse, and yeah. So what do you think? What are we seeing here, Newskin?
These are the same ones I posted in the group a while back, but I think someone called it out as Germans on one of the other moons like Europa or something. But from what I can recall, this is just 1950s, 1960s LOC with
Right.
memory banks in the back, and I'm not sure. I don't see magnetic tape, so it looks like a more technology than what was being released down here. But they had this technology since at least the 1960s, like a massive leap ahead of whatever they're releasing down here for the longest time.
Wow. And maybe like what was the movie? How was the How 2000? Oh yeah, the 2001 Space Odyssey, where the How was the How 9, was it 9,000? I can't remember one of those.
9,000, yeah.
Yeah, there you go. And so that one we had this here was a Jimmy Payne. I want him to come on and talk more about that, but he said that it's a crystal computer and was given to, I guess, it was built in Urbana, Illinois, I think. I forgot what name the company. It's in the movie. That's all soft. That's all real, basically. But it was it was given to that company corporation by the Tall Whites, so it had a conflict. Anyway, but the point is, um, yeah, the technology that we're being shown is way more advanced even back then. So yeah, in the 60s and so on. Okay, so shall we move on?
Yep.
Okay. Oh,
Oops.
I pressed the wrong button. We have Colin over there. We're gonna bring Colin on here. Colin's been on the show. We talk about the Killy Toker. I was trying to click on this. We're gonna get this right this time. Here we go. Okay. So what? Clothes hangers. Why are we looking at this, Newskin?
About a year or so ago, I had a job where, for some reason, not only did I have recall, but I recognized one of the other people working as potentially being in Nacht Waffen somewhere. I had recall of what appeared to be me and slave mine chopping away at what looked like iron ore or red rocks. And one of the people staring at me was another person that I recognized at work. Along with just the stuff at work, one morning I came in and got changed, and I found this on the bathroom door as if this was left for me. Of course, it looks like an eagle, but we all know that the hacking cruise has been used by anyone that identifies with Nacht Waffen or paperclip or anything for the past 100 or so years. So eventually, stuff like that would still be used. I thought that maybe there might be people within that place that I worked that left this as a message for me, just because of the shape and the timing of it. Like that's just one of the many examples of where the Cabal have been trying to send messages to assets or anywhere else. It's always like small stuff like this and other things that come up here and there.
Thank you for sharing that. All right, so we got Emmerman Center cutting a cake that was baked for him aboard a U-172 in celebration for being awarded his Knight's Cross. On the left is Chief Engineer L.I. Lothar Dick, and on the right is Second Watch Officer IWO Herman Hoffman. What are we looking at here?
I guess there'd be a bit more explanation if you just go to the pic on the left of Karl Emmerman, otherwise known by CG as Sigmund. This was supposedly one of the main people that was behind SSPA in that timeline.
So
but
that's like CG's handler, Sigmund.
That was supposedly the person that was being pulled into the LOC after Nacht Waffen intercepted a hard drive or something with all the Nacht Waffen service records. Apparently, in that timeline, according to CG, Sigmund was behind it, and that's where he was dragged in. From World War II, he was initially a U-boat captain stationed off of South Africa in wolf packs of submarines, and eventually he was, near the end of the war, assigned towards the Type 21, Type XX-1 U-boats, which was the mainstay of Nacht Waffen's submarine fleet and spacecraft inventory alongside the milk cows and the Vics. Eventually, now, between 1945 and 1990, I tried looking up records for this guy. I can't find shit. Nothing online, nothing. It's been completely scrubbed clean. But up there, according to all of our sources, Sigmund is SSPA, or he's very heavily involved within Nacht Waffen itself, especially to do with the fleet.
Yeah, and SSPA is Alliance again. Okay, wow. So let's see here. Let me click this.
If
Go
with
back to that one.
that picture there, I don't know his subordinates in that picture, but I want to post this one too because supposedly the main rivalries between Nacht Waffen is the old guard, like the Luftwaffe, Kriegsmarine, Wehrmacht, and the World War I veterans, etc. Like the SA, especially the SA sided with these guys, versus the Valhallas they've been retrieving. So all the ancient Germans they've been retrieving and all the combat deaths, versus basically the Waffen-SS Corps that was the main operational force behind the Nacht Waffen as an organization in its early days. So it's just this inner rivalry between these three factions, and Sigmund was part of a German nationalist faction.
Oh, wow. Okay. Audience members, if you have any questions about Immerman or Sigmund, go ahead and put it in the chat. But let's just go ahead and move on.
Oh, yeah.
What do you want to do? Here? What? Nüsken?
Just go to, I know I had another one. Going. Yeah, that one's Scorzeni. Oh, now that one is definitely. I was gonna bring up Scorzeni. It's right near the left on your bottom of your screen, right next to the Kruger MDF rifles. Yeah.
Okay, so this looks like somebody that we recognize in the disclosure community, and why do you have these? They kind of look similar. What can you tell us about this?
Otto Scorzeni was known for being heavy in special ops during the last days of World War II, particularly rescuing people from mountains, combat actions, deception, and working behind enemy lines. After the Battle of the Bulge, supposedly he was sent into eastern Prussia, in order to try and withdraw assets from the Soviets before he was captured by the Americans. Eventually, after the war, he managed to escape prison and head to Spain, where he was granted asylum and worked as an engineer before moving to South America and dying in the 1970s.
Wow. And didn't he say that Hitler was alive until the early 2000s, and I think in New Jersey? He was living in New Jersey.
I'm not too familiar with the Hitler stuff, but in terms of Skorzeny, he's had quite an interesting past, all things considered. There's even people in the community that I think pointed out a picture between the Bushes and Skorzeny and a couple other Rockefellers back in the late 1920s at the university or something. Like, he's had extensive experience between all that. He's been called Gonzales, supposedly a code name he's also had throughout these years as well. There's all sorts of red flags and mysteries behind all Skorzeny, and I just find it extremely discomforting that CG just happens to look almost like a carbon copy of him.
Okay. Question from Nice View: was the Sigmund officer the same Sigmund that CG was always speaks of?
Yes, if you look online at whatever material CG hasn't scrubbed from the internet, there is one picture of Sigmund in modern military fatigues. If you were to compare the photos side by side, that would almost look exactly like Karl Emmerman is.
All right. Okay, let's go ahead and move on here. So let's see here. The rifles. So this obviously look like AI artwork.
Sorry, that first one is MDF from what I can recall.
Okay, and you served in Mars Defense Force as well?
I did not serve in MDF, but I did work around that area, around those units. So I did see these, but I did not actively use these day to day.
So we're probably looking at a plasma rifle. Because a rail gun wouldn't look like that. A laser, I don't think a laser gun is. It's got to be plasma. At least
I did want to say, if anyone knows how to get a hold of Randy Kramer or Andrew Basaggio to confirm these, I would really love to hear their feedback on some of these things I've been finding through Mid-Journey and the AI art gen.
Oh wow, okay. We got John Whitberg says, gives a little shout out. All right, well, let's see what we can do with Randy Kramer. We can see. I'll try to hook you up with that. Okay, let's move on here. We got here's another one. What do you think? This is a rail gun, maybe?
Oh, that one's conventional. John mentioned this might have been one of the earlier Nacht Waffen rifles. So basically, the Sturmgewehr 44-45 was one of the first ones they had outside the Mausers, but eventually, with more technology, they upgraded towards bullpups and eventually went back to conventional with some of these.
So I guess conventional can go through the shielding, the force field, whatever the magnetosphere technology.
I'm not sure, like ballistics or anything like that, but right above the trigger is where they had a fingerprint scanner. Usually was a green screen where you put your finger on and scanned, and if you had authorization from a CO or your own authorization, depending, that's how it'd fire. If it didn't sensor DNA, it could not operate. Later models had these on the trigger hair itself, but the earlier ones had a side print scanner.
Yeah, so like if you go see those science fiction movies where somebody steals the gun from a guard, that wouldn't even work. But we don't know that. So
not only that, with other incidents, for example, like if cyborgs realized they used to be someone else before they got activated from stasis or something, if they got a hold of these weapons, all the CO had to do was lock it out. So of course it couldn't stop the rampage, but at least they won't have access to weapons. So for COs, they'd be able to turn off these things from a distance. So in case there's a mutiny or anything, especially with certain crews, the damage would be minimalized. Same with insurrections or anything else that would happen on board a ship.
All right. Some more, looks like conventional here.
second gen Nacht Waffen. It went back towards the stylings of the other ones, plus it took inputs from some of the other paperclip manufacturers. But there is a grenade launcher, but I guess the magazine's a little bit off, but otherwise very accurate to what we had.
Well, that one looks a lot of fun. Get and all right, more modern. This was
I think that might have been like a AI upscaling of the previous one we were just on. That one does look a bit more like what we had, but there's some, like for example, the AI doesn't recognize what a magazine is or anything. So, for example, instead of a detachable magazine, it looks like it's part of it. So I
wow.
guess it's more troubleshooting, but those are vaguely what our weapons look like in service.
Yeah, wow. So I guess the AI is trying to make it look similar to a laser rifle, but not quite there. Okay,
I guess
so
that might be infrared sensors or something, or that, or maybe crystal tech on the scope there. But then again, I'm not familiar with crystal tech on the scopes. It was always infrared or something else.
oh wow, thank you for sharing that. So let's actually, you know what? Let me I got some ideas. Let me pull this one up. This was I don't know, maybe the Ileana the Star Traveler. I think this one. Let's see here. I'm hoping this is gonna work. Okay, please work. There we go. Okay, this no, I don't want to do that one first. Let's do this one. So this is I guess this will be the plasma rifle. Do you remember these? Nüsken? Does that look
Yes, I
familiar?
do. Yeah.
Look familiar? Yeah. So
I think ICC had these a lot more than I did. I was mostly assigned conventionals, but ICC definitely had these.
all right, let's get out of that one. Let's do this one. So this one looks almost kind of like the Star Trek phaser device, like handheld. I mean, yeah. What do you think about this one? What does that one look like?
I think that might have been more for VIP protection. I saw those around for Krugers a couple times, but mostly during those meetings when Walter Sr. was still alive, or maybe he is, if we have more information down here. I know for sure that during meetings, Gabriel and Alexander Kruger would have special teams running around with these or in full Kruger attack kit. These were usually for more corporate office room types, but they still had assets that usually went full military gear into some of these meetings.
Okay. Wow. Oh wow. Let's say let's pull up another one here. Close that out. Let's do this one. Whatever came up last. Let's see what this one is. Okay. Zoom in. What do you think that you recognize that one?
I personally use the older Luger in service, but I do recognize it. It is, I believe, a laser pistol or maybe a rail pistol. The projectiles travel a lot faster than traditional ballistics, and they use that to penetrate armor. Along with some
Yeah.
smart rounds that, for example, would penetrate organic tissue and stuff, but they wouldn't penetrate the exterior of a ship, so you wouldn't be at loss of oxygen or anything like that.
Thank you. All right. So let's see this one. Let's see if I got this is gonna load. Okay, where are you? We get that one. Okay, we did that one already. This is plasma. Not obviously the best drawing, but the pink color plasma. You remember that? The pink plasma. Nüsken.
Out of those ICC rifles, it just showed me yes, but Waffen, I didn't really see too much about it. I guess I was assigned more conventional ballistics and explosives than I were lasers and plasma weapons.
All right.
I did have
Okay.
electrical shock weapons, but lasers and plasma I didn't really use for that very often, from what I can recall.
Okay, let's do another one here. This one, it's more hand drawn. So we got a charging. Let's see here. A digital map right here. GPS. We've got here's the I think this guy worked for he was on the Galactic Federation has their own super soldier squads. Let's too. I had one lady. We actually she like channeled it or remote viewed it for us to talk. His name is Gary. So anyway, it's a long story. I'm gonna go into that right now. But their the logo is like the circle with the triangle inside. They have that insignia. I don't know. Does any of that look familiar to you, Nüsken?
I wouldn't say GFL, but that does look like the symbol for civil defense that used to be for nuclear wars back in the 1950s. This could be either alternate timeline or maybe like extremely early Sword Warden, but that's the best I got on this one, unfortunately.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. Yeah. So this one had let's see here. Go back. Oh my gosh, where I got some of these things open. X-ray scanner, target finder, charging handle. So okay, let's get out of that.
Come to think of it, the GPS network was online pretty early, so it most likely is a Sword Warden that might have potentially used something like that.
Okay. Let's close that one out. I got some more to show you here. Wasn't really planning on doing this tonight, but it all works out, I guess. Does that look familiar to you? Don't have any details on this one.
Well, it's like EM, like a kind of like a stunner, but I don't know too much about this. Although it doesn't look exactly like Earth Origin, though. This looks almost like the same thing as the hammer with the thing at the back.
Okay, put that one out. Got some more to share here. Let's get this one to come up here. Okay, I think I've shown this one. Collapsible buttstock. We've got a medium long range scope, and we have
That definitely looks like a older Luger. It's just probably modernized.
Right. Okay. So
I did have one I did want to bring up now that we're mentioning. If you look on this game called Callisto Rising or Callisto Protocol.
Do you have any idea how to spell that?
CALL.
Wait, hold on. CALL.
ISTO.
Okay, protocol survival game.
Okay, look up Shock Baton.
All right, I guess we need to get a copy of this game after the show, everybody, and learn about some soft disclosure here.
I've been looking up Starfield quite a bit as well since I got the game a couple weeks ago. Some of the recall through there is kind of scaring me. I'm not gonna lie.
All right, we got our shock. What do you call it? Shock baton.
Ileana was mentioning how she had some of these along with Nacht Waffen using it on their prison barges and penal systems. As COs, sometimes we did have access to this, and sometimes I did carry this. Something like this. Almost the exact same design and everything. Probably just maybe more safeguards to keep from electrical electrocution, but then again, the nanites probably helped us as well. So it was really a receiver end type of weapon.
All right. Thank you. Okay, so let's see here. I think I got. Okay, I have two more left here. I pulled up. This one is called the FN F2000. I don't know if this is from. It doesn't. I don't know if that's a video game.
Oh no, that's a prototype developed by Fabrique Nationale in Belgium. It didn't see too much adoption, but it might have been a potential offshoot of some of the Nacht Waffen weapons development they might have had going at the time.
Oh wow! So this is available to civilians for enough money, I guess, to purchase.
The FNP90 itself is pretty expensive. I imagine the FN2000 is likely military sales only or way higher in price, for sure.
All right. Okay, I'm getting down to the last one here. This one looks like a rifle of some sort. Oh wait, yeah, I actually got a title on this one. It's called the Mars Defense Force Bullpup Rifle. You recognize that one?
I do recognize parts of it, but I think It might have been an earlier version because the picture I had was a bit more ergonomic development, as if there's more 3D printed components, more plastics. This might have been like straight milled though. Probably would explain the shape of it, but uh, I guess maybe it's varying sizes as well. Because for example, I just don't think it's fire a smaller round than the handle size, like stuff like that. Unless it was maybe a flush shutter, like a really smart round, but then again, I have no idea. So it could have been MDF early on for sure, but assuming with technological progresses, they might have upgraded to more ergonomic design from the picture I had earlier.
Oh, okay, so now we got looks like the Yozoro no Kaishu.
Yes, Japanese SSP.
Okay. What can you tell us about the Japanese breakaway?
I don't know too much. I like my recall's still kind of iffy on this one, but I did have interactions with them while I was in Nacht Waffen, but it wasn't very much. Like occasional meetings, or for example, on series. The Japanese are allowed on series just as free as the Nacht Waffen was allowed on Trainer or any of their worlds. So in some of these nightclubs on R&R, they'd have joint Japanese German teams going out drinking, and they'd be practicing the pinky treatment at the bar, just like getting drunk and basically chopping off the pinky and seeing who would last the entire night doing that. Of course, they had it medically regrown from med beds and other treatment back at base, but unfortunately, that was a thing.
Oh, that's like some weird sicko stuff. But
But then
so
again, series red light districts were pretty notorious, so I'm assuming it was probably because of that.
okay, Light Doc he's making a great comment. He says the bull pup weapon is something that you find in the here and now. It's a Keltac RDB 556. I have that rifle 308. Thank you, Light Doc. I really appreciate that for shooting that to us. Okay, let's see here. Anything else we can go? So this was part of the Japan, the national, the Imperial Japan, right?
Yes, of course this is AIR gen, so for example, the ear's a little off and the blue scales, but for example, that collar is almost the same exact styling as we had in our Nacht Waffen uniform. Same tunic, same belt. They might have had the Rising Sun on theirs, we had a swastika or the Hacking Cruise with Galaxy or something else on the other. Like, but almost the exact virtual same setup, same composite armor, stuff like that.
Nice. And the Japanese breakaway are really good at their robotics. And they would trade with the Germans for their spaceships. Is that typically the arrangement out there?
I believe so, yes. And for their meetings, they handled everything in house, but occasionally they call on Nacht Waffen for expertise. In one recall instance, they had me sitting on this 1940s steampunk room with Mercury rising sun, so it was glowing metal within, like, I guess some sort, kind of like an aquarium of sorts. And they had me sitting down. I had my glass pads, but they had like paper documents and stuff like that. Did things completely differently.
Okay, so Chad's saying I didn't pronounce that right. So it's, oh my God, guys, I'm gonna try it again. Yozoro no Kuyushu. Does that sound right, Nüsken? Kuyushu? Whatever, it's all whatever. Okay, we can move on if you don't know. All right, let's see here. We got
Kruger.
yeah, it says Kruger, but I'm trying to, I guess so
That's Walter Kruger. Apparently, he had fan mail that's gone onto the internet, and that is supposedly one of his pictures he has out there from his World War II service.
wow. Okay. Anything you want to comment about this one? We just move on.
Walter Kruger specifically.
Oh gosh, I did it
Like I said, anyone who might have served with him or had interactions with him on the Eastern Front, he kept a list. So regardless of what timeline it was, if those people ended up in Nacht Waffen, he established connections. Or some other times, if Nacht Waffen for whatever reason released him for service or retired him, they'd usually move on to Kruger for employment. This is also
All right.
how Kruger Corps has kept their organization so tight over the decades.
All right. Thank you for sharing that. Let's move on here. So this looks like Harris's.
Kruger
Didn't Harris?
Juniors.
Who's the actress on the left?
Amy Poehler, and right is Greg Poehler, Alexander and Gabriel Kruger.
Okay, interesting. Because that's what a younger version of Gabriel Kruger would look like.
Yes.
Huh. And you said who was Amy Poehler?
Alexandria Kruger of Kruger Corps. After Walter decided to retire and eventually might have been deceased, Gabriel took over the business side of things, and Alexander took over the asset side of things.
Oh wow. Okay, so Harris was saying something about Amy, like he went to the moon and she was there to talk to him about. I think she had some drink. She wanted him to drink, and he refused because he knew it was drugged. And she was like smiling at him, like she wanted him to join or something. I don't.
Alexander would handle the assets specifically. Gabriel was the one who did give out the missions, but he mostly did business work and stayed inside the system, while Alexander would handle assets and travel outside the solar system for official matters.
Oh wow. Okay. And Amy Poehler. Do you know what show or series she was?
Parks and
featured in?
Recreation.
Parks and Recreation. Okay.
I don't know any of the other ones. I don't watch too much TV anymore, but she was on Parks and Recreation.
Okay, we got John Whitberg says it's Yozora no Kunshu. Monarchs of the Night Sky. So I haven't heard that one before. But all right, let's just move on here. Okay. All right, so who's this guy?
This person is Richard Krüger. He is the CEO of Suncor, an energy company in Canada. I haven't been able to look on much on him either, but the resemblances between Walter Krüger and the other Krügers especially did raise some eyebrows with me. So, and supposedly in this universe, for all we know, there could be a family connection, but I'm not sure where it all ties in. But I found it extremely odd, considering all the paperclip and ICC ultimatum stuff from the earlies that we all know of. Because supposedly his corporate career began in the 1980s after attending American University, has lasted relatively without notice for the past 40 years until the Cabal started cracking down on CO2 emissions and the Green New Deal and stuff like that. So that's only where I've noticed this guy come to light. So I'm assuming he might potentially be connected with the Krugers, but I have no 100% for certainty on this. But the resemblance is rather striking.
All right, so they were able to get their cushy jobs that they got back here on planet Earth.
It's the same thing that Jason Rice was mentioning about Antarctic Germans. One person on the board of each company, and they have to keep the gates locked down and to make sure that the Cabal doesn't get any more advantages than the Germans. So I'm assuming, well, if he got that position because of that, by working at Suncor, extracting natural gas, there's also a chance that Nacht Waffen could intercept and plug any holes within the Valhalla Earth network or anything else that might be of interest to them, along with preventing maybe dumb access or anything if there's any underground facilities in northern Canada that might be of interest.
Wow.
Basically,
Okay.
aces and replaces.
What's that?
It's just basically a system of aces and replaces.
Okay. Wow. Okay, let's see. Here we go. Let's go to the next one. All right, so this was what was this? They wanted to build what did you call it, Comex or something like that? Nüsken, they wanted to build this.
Lomex, yes, but LOC is just the style of it looks very familiar, like brutalist architecture, skylights, usually gray stone with black or like earth colors, basically. And they did have a lot of black tourmaline on LOC, if I recall correctly, as well. A lot of the walls outside of the main corridors would have black tourmaline or black obsidian lined with it.
Why? Wouldn't that make it very dark inside there?
Technically, yes, but it also helps absorb some of the negative energy. Uh, like with crystal work, we know that black tourmaline repels and black obsidian protects. If there's dark things happening behind these walls at LOC, they likely installed these as a safeguard so that you couldn't telepathically sense it or look through it in order to see what was happening. Which will explain the selection process as Johann first described, where they brought children up to LOC and then did the one-by-one treatment.
Okay, thank you. All right, so this was all built out on Mars, and I guess they found a volcanic crater or some kind of what can you tell us about that?
Volcanic crater for Womax on Mars, yes. As for the moon, I'm not sure. I'm just going off the information that we all have for LOC.
All right. Okay, so Chad is saying it's Yozora no Kushu. Thank you, Chad. All right. I'm seeing some really good questions in there from the chat. I'll get to you soon. Okay. We're almost done through this. All right. So who is this? Who we're looking at?
Dr. Frederick Lenz, otherwise known as Zen Master Rama. Supposedly between Otto Skorzeny and Corey Good, I suspect that this might have been a potential reincarnation or a Nacht Waffen insertion of assets into life down here. Supposedly, this guy came out of the woodwork in the 1970s, and he tried to start a new age group at the time by recruiting people into these programs and computer courses. But this could have theoretically been a cover for Nacht Waffen accessing files and stuff, and basically derailing the Cabal's efforts at trying to modernize the computers, along with using those resources in order to fuel other things, to which I have no idea. But there's been a lot of people in the New Age community claiming that Zen Master Rama was basically a con artist, ripping people out of tens of thousands of dollars and providing all this faulty computer technical knowledge. And supposedly he died in 1997-98. No trace. All stuff disappeared, and that was also supposedly around the same time I noticed where CG started all of a sudden popping up on the internet. So there's just a lot of interesting correlations here and there. I suspect this Zen Master Rama, Frederick Lenz, might be potentially an alter of Skorzeny or potentially CG incarnate before he moved on to be more widely known as CG.
So this is like similar one of those actors that are actually the opposite sex. Like we have Michael Douglas and Catherine Zeta-Jones. They're actually both. Another one, Will Smith, apparently is a woman. And was it Jada? I don't know.
Well,
if I'm wrong.
like he was a guy from what we all know, but just stuff like this in general, where Nacht Waffen and others use the spiritual community and New Agers, starseeds, light workers, in order to insert for operatives and go underneath the radar in order to complete objectives. In this case, he was encouraging his followers to take up computer coding courses and apply to all the big Cabal companies for work, where they proceeded to basically wreak havoc on their systems and delete entire databases of code and stuff like that, to a point where it actually halted some of the tech progress that was happening. This might also explain potentially how the computers companies crashed during the 80s and 90s, stuff like this.
There's another picture. Okay. All right.
There is more on the right-hand side. Oh yeah, that's the one. Like that's what set alarm bells off for me. It's just a general appearance that looks like CG. Along with the fact it's always like nature pictures as of CG lately as well.
Okay, another one here. All right. Well, so that's it with these pictures. Let me. Yeah. Okay. So I'm gonna go through your bio. He also knows the history behind Sigmund. We already went into that. The Kreigsmarine Luftwaffe Wehrmacht versus Valhalla versus Schutzstaffel. You want to go into any of that, or?
Oh, it's just I like none. Just the fact that we're Valhallaing everyone back is just going to cause so much issues. Like before, it was just the general German society and general forces of Germans during World War II versus the Schutzstaffel and the Schwarzsonne like core society, and then all of a sudden you throw in all the Valhallas and all the other people being brought in. It just gets to a point where it becomes so messy and intricate that all of a sudden the SS side of things is finding themselves cornered because all of a sudden they brought back all their enemies from the dead, and it just becomes a complete gong show. We're trying to shoehorn things through when everyone else is basically telling them no, stuff like that.
Well, so that goes. Here's a good question we can add to that. So our Facebook user is asking, how can Darkfleet be 10,000 years old if it was started by the Nazis in our timeline? What do you say about that?
Well, time travel for sure. For the Draco bubble, for example, or anomalies elsewhere in space, they could have potentially developed ways to get back in time or use that to hop dimensions. I mean, supposedly the Draco during the Orion Wars arrived because they're kicked out of another universe by the GFL and use some way to transport to another one or potentially back in time. So I'm assuming it was likely through stuff like that that they managed to get back that far. The Valhalla mostly focused on like recent Earth history, but it didn't really go back that far to the Orion War. So it must have been like a special like project of Nacht Waffen to maybe send through a pumpkin seed and do that. But I have no idea how far back they managed to get or the results of doing something like that.
Okay, this is from the last time you came on here. So we got the Draco bubble. This is located what? We got the moons of. Where is this? We're looking at here. Series.
Oh, that one's definitely older one for sure. Okay, so that was supposedly the defense perimeter that they had when the GFL came knocking. So we had a Draco outer layer through the asteroid belt, along with the Zetas retreating, and then the inner system was all Nachtwaffen's forces. They decided to double down with the worlds when they came through. They weaponized Iapetus via Death Star and basically focused all their resources on defense in the inner core system.
Thank you for sharing that. Okay, we got so I'm hoping this way. Okay, here's the Draco bubble, I guess. Jupiter, time travel points, Betelgeuse portal, DracoZeta, Royal Sikaar portal here. The Merchant Marine Fleet. Oh, great, they're involved. Well, tell us what are we looking at here, Nüsken?
Sorry, can you just zoom in a little bit? It's hard to see on my phone. Okay, so that was supposedly the general basics of the Draco bubble. You had your entry ports, you had your one-way travel lanes in order to access that you had to stick to, because the rest of it was Sikaar space or fleet storage, basically. Nacht Waffen had a special route through the Sikaar section, but there's a specific neutral section that Solar Warden, Merchant Fleet, and others were supposed to use when visiting this Draco facility inside that bubble. You're supposed to loop in a certain way, dock, and then leave a certain way. Nacht Waffen generally use the other corridor, the orange corridor for it, and that went through DracoZeta fleets and repair facilities like manufacturing facilities. In the event of a full-blown war, if the DracoZetas and Nacht Waffen were to ever launch one, this bubble would basically become basically a Pearl Harbor of sorts, where you can focus all your fleet assets in, have all your personnel, and have it all ready. And that's also how the Draco managed to intervene in other systems, because through these bubbles and portals, it wouldn't be very hard to secure the system, because all you need is recon on the outer edges, and if you sense something, that's when you send out your fleets, basically. When during that timeline, the Blue Beam timeline, it was activated and Nacht Waffen was using it for fleet repairs and manufacturing, along with massing battle formations as well. because the GFL could sense what was happening inside the system, but they couldn't sense what was happening inside the bubble. So eventually, most of the hard fleet was sent into some of these bubbles just to for counter surveillance purposes.
Right. That's partly how we're going to defeat them. So we're going to put them in another bubble and send them away. Yeah, that's gonna be a while though. Another 80 years probably. Anyway, but yeah, so can you confirm this thing still exists here in our solar system?
It doesn't exist in a blue beam sense where everything's activated and weaponized, but the Draco station and DracoZeta assets do definitely exist in there. But two main Draco White Royals for the solar system reside in there, along with significant portions of the Draco Religious caste and their military. The bases down here are just guard posts, basically. All the main action happens within this bubble specifically.
And can you confirm there's much as CCAR all around our system, Nacht Waffen, all around us? Basically not just in this bubble.
Yeah. I mean, there's some nights where me or Harris, sometimes we notice all these ships going up. I mean, it tends to be mostly cigar shapes or pumpkins. We haven't seen much triangles lately, but they're still flying around quite a bit. Regardless of all the GFL talk out there, we've been seeing a lot of non-GFL things happening around us lately.
Right, because there's another popular YouTuber out there that's promoting the idea that Nacht Waffen and the Draco have been cleared out of our system by the Galactic Federation of Light. What do you think of that?
For DracoZetas, wouldn't necessarily do that without hesitating, but not Nacht Waffen. It depends, because they've been involved in this for almost 100 years now, and they've been looking at ways to get out for just as long. Odds are, once you remove the black goo infected officer class and leaders, the rest of Nacht Waffen German breakaway probably would want to get out of Dodge as soon as possible and just stay out of things.
All right, let's get out of that. Okay. All right, so let's see here. What else? I guess, are we coming near the end here? He has information about Nacht Waffen time travel missions to control the timeline themselves and cut out the Draco middleman. What is that about?
I think during the first interview I mentioned that one of my past lives got access to Tartarian tech powered by Mercury. He was trying to make heads or tails of it, and after a meeting with Emperor Wilhelm II at the time, supposedly that's when Nacht Waffen wanted to intercept it. So they sent a Valhalla mission back with a couple combat teams and counterintelligence types to try and retrieve this early prototype Mercury engine. But Draco caught them instead and basically executed them, along with executing one of my past lives, which is also one of the reasons why I was red flagging the coronavirus, just for getting my hands on Mercury, let alone developing the tech, because one of my other past lives, the Chinese Emperor one, also involved Mercury. And Mercury was critical to their early space exploration efforts as well.
Can you tell us more about this Tartarian technology? Like, what do you think you might have discovered?
I'm not exactly sure. It might have been an energy source, but what I'm thinking is, if the Germans had access to a working Mercury spacecraft engine in the 1890s instead of 1940s, for example, if they did that, they wouldn't have to go for World War One. They wouldn't have to go for World War Two. They wouldn't have to deal with the Cabal. They wouldn't have to deal with the Rothschilds, the Rockefellers, and they wouldn't have to sign that DracoZeta treaty. So it'd be like the Derek Reinhold timeline you were mentioning, where they might have had a chance of winning and installing Tesla and other stuff like that, but they wouldn't have to be on that treaty, so they didn't have to deal with Draco over tall Nordics or anything. It would have been strictly a third way, like the infamous third way the Nazis always keep mentioning between, let's say, capitalism, communism. They mention National Socialism as a third way. So between the GFL and between the DracoZetas, if the Nazis and the Germans could have won a third way without dealing with them, then theoretically they could have had their alternate timeline like that, which is also why we're so keen, because of how desperate we want to get away from the Draco. that actually explored it and even tried to do missions in order to secure that timeline.
All right. Well, the timeline where the Nazis won World War II, they uh, the racist philosophy was adopted by these Nordics who were having orgies with high-level Nazi SS, and yeah, so that's so in the other timeline, the Nordics lost interest in that group, so they embraced the Jews and they put their money in the banks, and then they didn't invade the Soviet Union, and they basically the United States was split up in two: the American Reich, controlled by ARN, the American Reich Nazi Party, and then on the West Coast was the Japanese Empire, and then in Alaska was a no man's land shared between the two different empires, I guess you could say. And that's where I have in my book where I talk about the Derek Reinhold, where I'm in Abatava. It's like a super soldier training camp. You can check out my book. Get a copy of my book. Anyway, it's all good. So anyway, we can go all around here talking about so many different things. So I guess, did you pretty much cover controlling the timeline, Nüsken?
Oh yeah, there's likely been other things as well, but for example, just with everything else going on as well, like especially watching well, I guess I drop the name already, but watching some CG stuff, like for example, just watching some newer stuff, it's like one guy asking like extremely softball questions, and then that's like scripted answers, like stuff like that, where I'm kind of wondering, okay, so what exactly is the purpose? I mean, like we're all supposed to be working SSP Alliance or like combat veterans for what we did in Nacht Waffen or other programs, but it's just like we're like sometimes some of these people going at, like, is it to like keep people from recalling memories or like stuff like that, where I'm just wondering what, like how are some of these people out there are they trying to control the timeline themselves or act on behalf to keep things down and simmered instead of outright exploiting as in other timelines I honestly have by now? Because like for QAnon, for example, it should have happened like years ago, or like the blue beam stuff from my second tour that happened supposedly in 2020 during initial COVID, like stuff like that.
Careful. Yeah, don't, you gotta be more coded about saying those words. All right, I think we're gonna, I think we'll keep this video up. Yeah, just be careful. Okay, let's see here. We're Nacht Waffen with the solar system named Aldebaran. What do you think about that one?
Algebron. I No, I do remember something. I just can't tell because I'm seeing images in my head of like Pleiadian types, like tall Nordics, but I also see like pictures of a Draco here and there. I'm not sure too much on that system in particular. I know
Okay,
it's one. I know it's the same system that Maria Orsich, I believe, went to after she managed to get off the Earth.
right. And she's probably still alive. They have re-aging technology there. So we wish her the best. And the other Vril Domins that managed to make it. Whatever happened to Jason Rice, since somebody else came down on everybody for supposedly stealing and his labeling on certain topics such as 20 and back? What do you say about that one?
I know from what I remember, supposedly Jason Rice lost his job and he started getting harassed like mad, especially after CG basically went to the courts saying that 20 and backs SSPs did not exist and stuff like that. And I know Jason Rice has kept a pretty low profile over the years. I think I mentioned before, like, well, we're all just trying to get a hold of this guy so he can actually talk SSP and maybe have his confirmation, especially with IDARF and stuff. But I don't even know how to get a hold of him. But in my honest opinion, what Jason Rice has been telling us has been extremely accurate, especially from recall stuff I've seen. Even in the second tour, Nacht Waffen and Kruger were sent down here in order to secure things, but IDARF was basically human resources of it. They sent in IDARF personnel in order to try and simmer things down, and this is to keep things cool between everything. Because of course, with us, Nacht Waffen and Kruger types was just went in blasting, no questions asked. But IDARF was usually the ones that would go in and try and talk their way into things, or at least have a peaceful resolution method compared to some of us vets out there. So instead of being on Caldas free and stuff during then, technically they still had that the systems, I believe, but IDARF, the main force, the main 2 battalions or whatever, were mostly sent here in order to just basically make it a bit more peaceful compared to how we're used to doing things. So it was a blue beam with Nacht Waffen, but they did try to at least make it a bit more peaceful than other things.
Thank you so much. All right, so we have a question about the German fleets in space. Is there any chance of them coming back to Earth and forcing the world governments to do disclosure about the SSP and aliens? What do you think about that one?
I was wondering about that myself quite a lot lately, to be honest. I mean, they have resources and the people. If they're being forced back in the system by the GFL, they could easily do this. I mean, I'm still standing outside. They could easily bring down entire fleets and whatever else they want by now. I'm just wondering exactly why haven't they? Especially if Earth's for home and everything else, and all the people and assets being eliminated down here for natural or fake natural means from the past couple of years. But like, Nacht Waffen could do this any day they want. ICC, same thing. Kruger, same thing. I just don't know exactly why they haven't intervened already,
Okay,
and
well,
if they have,
I,
well, exactly what have they done? Have they actually went down to these offices and basically went to the Cabal and basically told them to stop it or else? I mean, I just don't know exactly what they've done the past while to really force disclosure out there. The only thing that could force disclosure would have probably been GFL and likely through that route, but I just haven't really seen too much disclosure from the Nacht Waffen side of things.
all right, thank you for sharing that. So we have Johann Fritz who's come on here, and uh, he had mentioned that he had a regression. He had some problem with alcoholism. I don't know, maybe if I get this wrong, late 90s or early 2000. And he went to get this regression therapy, and that's when he found out he was in the secret space program. And he told the lady all the presidents, then all the next presidents, and he mentioned that Hillary Clinton was going to be the president. And in that timeline, we had nuclear war. And then around 20, I think he said 2028, Nacht Waffen finally comes down and then tells the whole world that they exist and that they're going to provide aid. So they wanted to wait to all of humanity just basically destroy themselves before they come and offer help.
Because the other thing too, now I've been thinking about this quite a bit too, between what you mentioned about the cobalt bomb, between the 1962 Cuban Missile Crisis, and what you just mentioned about the nuclear war, I had a theory that supposedly they're focusing very heavily on asset retrieval and recruitment outside of what could be termed as ground zeros. Because, for example, I live in a city, and of course, being in a city, that'd be one of the first targets of a nuclear strike. But being out in the country or a small farm somewhere, of course, Russia and China, for example, are going to send like Sarbama on a tiny little barn somewhere. But the thing is with that, I believe Nacht Waffen might have been using small towns and rural areas for recruitment for hundreds of years, like the Amish, for example. And during those events, considering the cobalt bomb that could wipe out everything, or Cuban Missile Crisis that would have taken out the cities, or even just a modern nuclear war, which with the MIRVs could easily take out suburbia and everything else as well, they would have a focus on rural assets that basically keep your head down and do like farming or something every day. Because across the timelines, for example, let's say I was a farmer, and 10 separate timelines, I'd still be a farmer. But because I didn't do anything in those 9 other timelines, if they ever needed to pull me out for asset retrieval or missions or whatever they want to do, I'd still be basically the same source material, like the same genetic background, the same childhood memories and stuff like brainwaves. So they could pull out these assets at any time and not have as much deviation or anything that will also set off GFL alarms or anything like that. So, for example, I my family spent significant time out on a farm before moving to the city back in the 60s and 70s. That's also where some other stuff came through for my family. But my dad's side of the family, for example, they lived in smaller towns in Germany, or what used to be Poland, from what I've been able to find. And then all of a sudden they moved to the big cities in Canada in the 60s. But some of them also left, for example, towards rural areas or different parts of the country. So, for example, it's a whole it's just a whole mess because they could be pulling assets out like at any time for anything, and they usually go after the ones that have been tainted, I guess, the least in their view for a service because they also don't want to potentially deal with ones that might have survived a nuclear war, for example, and might be like completely like psychotic from the aftermath and stuff like that. Sorry, it's a rambling answer, but yeah.
Thank you. Okay. All right. Speaking of Canada, you said that you had remote viewed secret SRI sites and meetings. So what can you tell us? Yeah, about yeah. What do you think about that?
uh, Not so much in Alberta, but in Manitoba and near the North Dakota Minnesota border, there's definitely been some interesting, funny activity down there. Along with, curiously enough, growing up in Winnipeg, there used to be stories going around of people actively practicing SRA and sacrifices and stuff like that in some of the apartment buildings and other areas around Winnipeg specifically.
All right. Is that all you want to share about that?
Unfortunately, is it even seeped through the veil sometimes too? Because, for example, in high school, my high school is connected to a middle school. It's like one of those budget saving things, I guess. And there's one time, like one of the younger kids from the middle school apparently went to a high school bathroom and left a decapitated bunny's head or something in the toilet. Like all this SRA is around us, and some of us don't even know about it. And whenever we do find out, like I'm just starting to now picture like trying to figure out where all my classmates in the SSP, like who was in Kruger, who was in Nacht Waffen, all the red flags and stuff I've seen over the years. Like it gets to a point where if you look far back enough and see all the patterns and everything, then it's like, oh shit, that guy I used to go with in middle school used to be in Krüger. I mean, like stuff like that, where eventually you trace it all back, and this is, gets kind of scary. But in terms of SRA, Manitoba, as far as I know, specifically had two sites for it: the Manitoba Legislature in downtown Winnipeg, and the Freemasons meeting hall on the border of Canada in the US, right next to the International Peace Gardens. That's the biggest two I know of for SRA sites in there specifically. As for Alberta, I am not 100%, but supposedly CFB Curry, now currently being remodeled for condos and stuff, is a big one in Calgary, apparently.
All right, let's move on here because we want to wrap this up here in the next 10 minutes. We have a comment from another Facebook user. I wouldn't be surprised that as soon as they found a time travel, I guess we're referring to Nacht Waffen, time travel machine, they could claim any time period as their beginning.
Supposedly, the Draco did that. According all across the board, they came from another universe. They used to be from the solar system after between the ancient builder race and the pre-Adamites, or it might have been Draco as dinosaurs that were killed off by an asteroid or something. Like, there's been all sorts of stuff around here that's definitely been, I guess, thrown out there for time travel. But for Nacht Waffen specifically, as far as I know, everything originated in the 1940s. There wasn't an earlier Nacht Waffen. There's Knights Templar and stuff like that, yes, but not
All
like
right.
a 10,000-year-old organization. Like now, Valhalla missions and covert ops, 100% guaranteed, but they didn't claim themselves to be Nacht Waffen itself. They likely adopted a pseudonym and operated using the same technology, but not under the same name.
Thank you for sharing that. Let's move on here. So I believe, yeah, the timeline about the nukes, that's all over with. I mean, like I said, that's Hillary Clinton would have been, yeah, the president. So that's all done, and I'm gonna be careful what I say so we don't
There is one thing about that though. Now, I remember from the first interview we did, that comment that we just saw about Jimmy Payne. There's another guy in the community, not disclosure specifically, but Steve Quayle. He's a Christian offer based out in Montana, I believe, or Wyoming, one of the two, and he's been mentioning all these prophecies of Romanian pastors and stuff, and they all say the same thing. February 2031 is supposedly the nuclear event. So now the U.S. is going to be, from what I've seen, both from Nacht Waffen, recall, and everything else, mostly the main receiver, along with Nacht Waffen facilities, industrial places, oil sands, etc. Now, from that vision I had of basically my last official day in Nacht Waffen and that timeline where it all happened, it was me, a couple other people I recognized, out on a shuttle just south of the city. And then all of a sudden, I guess we are doing something door to door. It wasn't like, this is like a, hey, how's it going sort of thing. And then next thing we know, there's like a mushroom crowd in distance just to the east of Calgary, like stuff like that. Recently, a manufacturing company, de Havilland, I believe, was mentioning something about a aircraft plant being established to the east of Calgary. In another timeline, if things were militarized, if Nacht Waffen took over, it wouldn't be like mini Cessnas being built there. It'd likely be full-on war machines. If Russia and China decided to do that, they're likely going to be taking out everything's strategic value and stuff like that. And also, I do believe that Jimmy Payne's stuff about us being glass is extremely accurate and scary. Just throwing it out there.
All right, Nüsken, yeah, let's try to, because we still have a few more questions. Let's try to answer these quickly, okay? All right, so we got a comment from Facebook user. Plasma guns are easy, but the barrels have to handle massive pressure. Thank you for sharing that.
EM fields usually help with that. Depending on the power source, it helps to contain it, especially from overheating and exploding.
Okay, so Sarabella as commenting, carbon replicants are the real U.S. military that sees 2 U.S. cloning labs. Harold Caltavella, black goo expert, using medbed style holographic camera fused quantum AI, many telltales like no molars, etc. I'm not sure what you're even saying here. What do you think, Nüsken?
I think she's mentioning just like exact clones, like for example, if I were to have a paper cut on my finger right now, that they'd be able to transplant that exact same feature into a clone of mine, like stuff like that, where you can clone exactly in a moment, but you don't have to constantly like refer to like original source material. So, for example, I could be abducted. They take the DNA and then base it off that instead of having to do that, or like real time, I guess, cloning update, something like that.
Okay, what's coming in 2024? Nüsken, I hear from Randy Kramer about to get invaded by insectoids, but we nuke ourselves. What is this true? What do you think is going to happen?
I doubt we're going to be invaded by insectoids. The IDARF playbook wouldn't happen with us, but from both timelines actually that I served in Nacht Waffen, the insectoids did wreak havoc on Mars. They went through the ICC facilities and basically went through and clean slate to a point where they actually had to call back in IDARF and Kruger assets and send them down there in order to do all the fighting at one point. It's not going to happen on Earth specifically, but Mars, with the ICC revolts potentially coming up in the next few years, I will not be surprised with how bloody it's going to be.
All right, thank you for sharing that. I have downloads of that too, but
As
say that.
Randy Kramer mentioned before, too, the insectoids, those things wreak absolute fucking nightmarish levels of damage on people. So from what I've seen from that timeline, when that thing happens with the ICC revolt, the insectoids are likely going to be launching their attacks around them. That's exactly when that's all likely going to take place.
All right. And I think Ileana, the Star Travel, mentioned that it's going to happen around the 2050s when Mars gets liberated. So there's a lot more work to do out there. All right. From John Whitberg, pumpkin seeds, or Kubersemen in German. That's nickname for the shuttlecrafts. Germans have nicknames for everything. I guess. Were you on one of the pumpkin seed crafts?
Shuttlecraft. I do remember those, but I do remember like the actual like cargo pumpkin seeds, like those 600 meter by 200 meter ships. That's what I meant to and was referring to.
All right. Okay, we have a comment from G. It says, Matthias, you're dead wrong a few things. The ICC is now in the hands of the white. What? Is now in the hands of the white hat? How do you figure that? The ICC is like, I mean, they're all out in the universe. The white hat, I mean, that's just a new phenomenon just emerging here. I mean, it's going to take 1,000 years.
Yeah, when I was initially placed in service, for going through the enlisted ranks, I was supposedly in my recall assigned to a post in a crater on Mars called Project Ticonderoga under the ICC. This ICC project was specializing in torturing and mutilating insectoid spiders among other life forms in order to try and figure out how to kill them faster. Most of these labs were all ICC run. Nacht Waffen was just the ones doing the security.
Interesting, because
a lot of the ICC is not a white hat organization.
A lot of these projects, they're so bad they kick them off planet Earth and they go to Mars because the was it Mars Defense? Oh no, Mars Colony Corporation turns the blind eye when as long as it has money. So we had a Project Wall Rider, where basically they were creating like a group consciousness, and the consciousness became its own egregor, and it was like a whole mess. The whole thing, you can imagine. Group consciousness, super soldiers. Yeah, that one they had to send. They moved that one to Mars, but all right. So an ICC. I mean, some of their they have like two. I put a video up. They had like 3 large space stations, and these stations are the size of planets. They're huge. So this organization is absolutely massive, and yeah, this is not going away. And under Cheyenne Mountain, the Cheyenne Mountain facility, there's a 50,000-year-old palace there where there's a pharaoh that lives down there. Basically, this part of the world was controlled by the Egyptians, and they are still alive. Some of these beings.
Supposedly, there's some word going around that the Egyptians might have been Lyran survivors of Antarctica before the Great Deluge that might have actually went out there. The thing is, I'm wondering, because supposedly, as Johann Fritz described, the Lyrans had to either submit or be exterminated from the Draco's terms of surrender. So if there is likely Pharaoh still alive, they're either pre-Adamite hybrids or potentially Lyrans, but answering to a Draco instead of answering the source.
Oh wow, well yeah, it's a problem. Nonetheless, we can save that for another time. G was saying that it's companies under Earth Terra, ICC companies. What do you think of that? They have all been taken over by the White Hats.
I mean, I haven't really seen much change to indicate that. Unfortunately, it just seems like the same status quo.
Okay, and here's another one. My intel says Nacht Waffen Regier has it's actually see the Nacht Waffen that's not Nacht Waffen Regier is subservient to the ICC. Is the Nacht Waffen is the sister, the parent corporation company organization or rather organization. So surrender to the United States Space Force and the Galactic Federation of Worlds and gave up all the Cabal secret. All the Cabal.
Oh God.
Okay, so
Okay, well, let's put it this way. One of the main chants during our exercises and stuff, we're doing squads, squad drill and Nacht Waffen. Ice Izeit Farash, we're Muslim de Cabal as rotten. Like, it basically came out as it's time for revenge, we must exterminate the Cabal. That's what we used to sing during our PT drills and stuff on site. Nacht Waffen is not going to surrender to the Cabal anytime soon. I mean, they'd rather die fighting as they did in the past. Like SSPA, especially, they hate the Cabal even more than the very rank and file Germans do, just because of how much pressure the Cabal has been putting on the alliance, especially. Like
wow.
the Nacht Waffen will definitely be going down with a fight. The only thing is, SSP Alliance is trying to make the things as easy as possible, so it's not like how things are done up there, basically.
Yeah, I think maybe what this person is alluding to is I think the Space Force is on the head of the Trimerative, which is like a board meeting on the moon where the different member of the ICC come together and meet. But either way, I still think there's, like I said, I think it's gonna take about 1,000 years to liberate the galaxy. So we've got a lot of work to do.
Like,
so,
for example, there might be a Space Force, but then again, there's people like Michael Aquino, supposedly that thing that shapeshifts in like a 5-dimensional monster or whatever, as Daryl James was describing. Like, there's still people like that all across potentially the U.S. military that could be flicked off a switch at any time. Like, in order to completely get rid of the influence of something like that in an organization, it can't just be like one person like Snake's head. It has to be like every single thing, which is also partially why the SCP Alliance has survived for so long under Nacht Waffen, because it's just so hard to completely control a decentralized force in an organization like that.
all right, let's call it. So Nüsken, I know you put a call to action. You're looking for somebody to help you out on your inventions. I tell you what, why don't you just put some, I'm going to say schematic, more like I'm not even like a artwork that you might have, what you want to work on, and maybe we'll allow you to come back on here again, and then you can pitch your idea from there. So what
Sounds
do you think
great to me. I did have one other thing I want to mention before we cut it for the night. Of course, from the previous interviews, I always had, I guess, a line or two to quip about crypto and QFS. XRP, if anyone's been paying attention to it, it recently survived the XCC court case and is supposedly being settled within sometime around April 2024. Supposedly, that's when XRP, from its current price of 50-60 cents US or 80-90 cents Canadian, is supposedly supposed to switch over to QFS to start and ride up. So figure I throw it out there that if anyone's interested in crypto and QFS, I would highly recommend loading up on ISO tokens like XRP, XLM, Algorand, etc. Before the financial system potentially switches over. Along with
Thank you.
the other funds. I know you sent me a list, James, a while back of ones on XLM, so I'm going to be looking at those, especially in the next couple weeks.
So my guy was sending me a message. He said last night this commander of Space Force urged the United States to adopt Bitcoin. So I mean, we can talk about what the BTC actually stands for and this and that, but we had one guy on here, Kusal. Oh, no, it wasn't him. It was somebody else. He does a lot of channel messages with Saint Germain, and he says that Bitcoin's going to 100 million and the US dollar is going to 0. So, but these other cryptos, we know we have Colin. He was extremely bullish on it. We're looking at maybe $100 XRP, but maybe even more. Look going further down the timeline, but either way, we'll just all hold out intention for the most positive timeline where we all get liberated and free, and we don't need to worry about money anymore. So, all right, everybody, have a wonderful day. Any final comments, Nüsken?
Oh, like I said, just it's a day-to-day survival thing, really. But I kind of hope things start picking up in terms of disclosure and stuff soon. It's just kind of hard to keep on going when systems still heavily entrenched down here.
Awesome. All right. Well, folks, if you want to learn more of the work I do, go to my website, supersoldiertalk.com. You can get your copy of a book. Go to my other website, Neological Tech. Purchase a meditation cube to help you out, relax. But yeah, so we will all see you later, everybody. And thank you, Nüsken. I appreciate for staying out there in the cold. Go get some hot chocolate and warm up. Okay.
Yeah, I guess that's the one downside for some of us in the community too. Like, for some of us, like it's hard to talk SSP in like McDonald's or something, and of course not being able to deal with roommates or workplaces and stuff like that. Eventually, it would be nice to maybe just maybe develop a place too where we can all talk about stuff like this out in the physical open. But with everything going on, just the general things we're talking about too, is it's extremely hard for me to, let's say, sit in Starbucks for a couple hours and belt out stuff about space Nazis. So
Yeah.
this is really hard to talk about without finding out like quiet places in the outdoors. I guess I see why sometimes some of the SSP videos I've seen lately of people talking, it's like in the middle of nowhere. I can definitely see why. unfortunately, sometimes even cold areas like Canada here, it's hard to really do that without having to make a sacrifice and just talk SSP outside for a little bit.
All right. Thank you so much. And thank you, audience members, for listening in. We had amazing comments and questions today. And yeah, so we will all see you later. Have a wonderful day, night, wherever you may be. See you all. Please consider supporting Super Soldier Talk by purchasing your own Neo Meditation device. Your Neo Meditation device will help you reduce stress, integrate trauma, enhance intuition, enhance clairvoyance, and enhance creativity. Get yours now at www.neologicaltech.com.